people sent this to me inside of my email. Email. People sent this to me inside of my email, and they said, Anton, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Now, there obviously are people that have been living under a rock, so they don't follow everything that's going on out here in the streets. So let me give you an update on what Terrell Owens said, specifically about black women and white women. Specifically about black women and white women, and then we're going to go further into the show. All right, let's get it. Oh, wait, I don't hear nothing. Is it me or that I don't hear anything? Oh, okay, here we go. We're going to rewind it. Hold on.
My experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. When I started dating white girls, my first experience with white girls is when I went to college. I tried to date some black girls when I was in college. They did not like me. I was skinny. I was strong.
Right.
I was teased from high school, even to college. I got teased for being dark skinned.
Damn,
so
they tease you, cuz?
Yeah. So there was a lot of self-esteem issues.
Right.
No, I'm being dead honest. So when I got my opportunity, when my first experience with a white girl, I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad, but that wasn't. I just totally gravitated to white girls after that.
Right.
That wasn't the situation. So again, my experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. So, but that still didn't deter me from still dating or pursuing black girls. Right. So my thing now is because I know there's the stigma, the stereotypical of athletes, you know, to go off and make money, this and that, and date the opposite color, opposite race. But for me now, where I am, it's not even about color. It's not even about race. For me, it's about somebody that I have some chemistry with, good energy, and I get a good vibe with.
I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. We're going to watch the whole video, and then we're going to go down and break it down line by line because I think it's some gems in here that you guys need to get that may not be being communicated effectively.
That's where I am. Like I said, we all want somebody that's attractive.
Right,
you know what I mean? Aesthetics going to play a big part in it. Anybody that says, oh, well, I don't care what the person looks like, that's a lie. That's a lie. We all want somebody that we can roll over and wake up to, that's, you know what I mean, that looks pleasing to the eye. Everybody's experiences have been different. For me, when I grew up, I was in my high school pretty much is 50, I don't know what percentage black, white, but I lived in a black neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I attempted to date black girls. When I was younger, I wasn't as handsome as I am now. I didn't have this beautiful smile as I have now.
You hit puberty.
Right. I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
So let me rewind this. Let's start over. Let's start all the way over, and we're going to go from the beginning, okay? Because there was a lot in there. In that little 2-minute clip, there's a lot in there. And I already see people in the chat jumping off the bridge as though we didn't just already have a positive speech. I already see people jumping off the bridge. Let's start from the very beginning. All right? Let's start from the very beginning and let's break it down.
My experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. When I started dating white girls, my first experience with white girls is when I went to college. I tried to date some black girls when I was in college. They did not like me.
Let's stop there. I tried to date some black girls in college. They did not like me. Most guys, contrary to popular belief, there may be a small segment of guys, regardless if they're on the sports teams or whatever, most guys in high school are scared of girls. And it's not that they're scared of women themselves. They're scared of what comes along with them. They're scared of rejection. They're scared of the peer pressure. They do stuff because their friends incentivize them to do stuff and like that. But more importantly, guys are still evolving. They're still finding themselves. It's a lot of guys that wasn't as fully developed or mature in high school. And then they start to find themselves a little bit more in college, which is one of the most dangerous places to start to find yourself for a woman or a man, because it's almost like finding out that you got 707 horsepower in that Hellcat. You turn on that red key. then you, because you don't really know how to control the power that you have. You know what I'm saying? So you're just going crazy, especially for a younger guy, an athlete, and all of that type of stuff, right? But what he's communicating is, listen, essentially he went to a 50-50 high school and maybe women, white people to black people or whatever. And it's much different than where we grew up, right? Because in the hood, it was pretty much all black people, and it was just a speck here of an Asian guy and a white girl and then a couple white girls, or a Hispanic, Latino. It's much different than when we grew up, how it is today in a lot of these spaces, right? And then also it's funny because I compare it to what my nephews are going through. They 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. And the majority of the women that they were around, or girls that they were around when they were going to school, college and high school, was overwhelmingly white. Now, compare it against this, because this is the context that's not added into it. And I know that Terrell Owens' conversation is going to be a little bit different than the conversation that we have overall. Make sure y'all tune into the Q show tonight. We probably going to address this. It's going to be a lit show tonight. I guarantee it. The conversation that we don't have out loud, right? The conversation that we don't have out loud, shout out to Being a Man, I'm going to read that super chat shortly, is the conversations that we have in our living room. The conversations that we have in our living rooms. Thanksgiving dinner, kitchen, right? Most people still have some form of racism, prejudice, bias, or preference, however you want to frame it. And a lot of the residual effects that come along with our parents and grandparents get pushed onto us. But it's funny how things evolve, right? Because a lot of y'all, when y'all were growing up, grandmama, great-grandmama, granddaddy, mama, what did they say to you? Now it's a little bit different in my household. My mother was a little bit different. But what did they say to y'all? How many of your friends did you visit? And then this conversation went along. Don't you bring no white girl home. They didn't even say don't bring no Latino home. Don't bring no Asian girl home. Don't bring no Mexican girl home. They didn't say none of that. They said, don't you bring no white girl home. That's what they said. If we going to be real on the Millionaire Morning Show, then let's keep it 1,000. Shout out to Lucolo. I appreciate you. Don't you bring no white boy home. Don't you bring no white girl home. The ladies got the white boy treatment. The fellas got the white boys treatment. Let's be for real. If we going to keep it 100, this is what the Millionaire Morning Show do. We address the issues for what they are, not for what it is that we want them to be. We're not going to be PC over here. We always are going to just be 100% and keep it 100. Now, I can only imagine that the white people, and how do I know this? Because I have white friends that are now adults, and I'm not going to say their names because some of y'all may be familiar with them, so on and so forth, but they will tell me that the white people, to a larger extent, was saying the same thing. Don't you bring no black man home. Don't you bring no black girl home. And if your parents was real PC or they evolved to a certain point, they'll say, bring somebody home that look like you. We only date within our own. Now, these new kids got it a little different. Now, they saying, don't you bring nobody home that got the same sexual organs as you. You know what I'm saying? Yo, listen, y'all, these new parents is so scared today that they not even tripping off of whether or not you're going to bring a white girl or a white boy home or a black man or a black woman home. They saying, hey, listen, let me just see your hands and put them up like this because I don't want you being a little bit like that. They just trying to make sure that you like people that are of the opposite sex now. They ain't even tripping. They say, listen, I'm going to take what I can get. As long as they not on that other side, we going to take you to church. We going to get you prayed for. They got their kids getting baptized at an early age in order to get it out of their system immediately. If it's any sign whatsoever, they going to be like, listen. I seen little man in there. And it seemed like he was trying to be a little fan in there. It's different now. Grandmama and grandpapa ain't even having a race conversation no more. They having a gender identity conversation. They trying to understand your pronouns. They, their, sees, they, sure. You know what I'm saying? We gonna move from Atlanta when we decide to have kids. We not gonna have kids in Atlanta. We gonna have kids in the North. We gonna have kids in the North. If we gonna have kids in the South, we gonna go to the South. We not gonna go Houston. We not gonna go ATL shouted. We gonna go to Nashville. You know what I'm saying? Arkansas. We gonna go to a whole nother side of the conversation. They having a different conversation. Listen, it's different then. But we talking about T.O. Let's finish. Let's get to what T.O. was saying. Let's keep going, y'all.
I was skinny. I was strong.
Right.
I was teased from high school, even to college. I got teased for being dark skinned.
Damn,
So
they tease you, cuz?
Yeah. So there was a lot of self-esteem issues.
Right.
No, I'm being dead honest. So when I got my opportunity, when my first experience with a white girl, I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad, but that wasn't. I just totally gravitated to white girls after that.
Right.
That wasn't the situation. So again, my experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. So, but that still.
Let's stop there. His experience with black women wasn't so good. This is the stuff that Ebony K. Williams was trying to convince y'all of. Largely a talking point of Kevin Samuels. They reject the thing that's best for them before they realize it because they want you better at the finish line. I'll give you an example. It's funny that women don't understand that men look at them differently, but they try to compare their decision-making to men. Yet they are hypergamous, which means that they're looking at it from a business perspective. They're just very, very, very bad business people. Let me break it down from a C student's perspective, right? Let's say, for example, all of these women say, I don't want to date based off of potential. I don't want to date based off of potential. We hear that all the time. You have to, or we prefer for you to be making six figures. Have a great job. You need to start your own business. If I have to deal with a guy that's not already there, can I build him up? Can I help him get to where it is that he needs to be? They say these things. These are not new phrases. I'm just regurgitating them to remind you of what the sentiment is today, right? As though that means anything. Six figures. That don't mean nothing. Most people making six figures is still living paycheck to paycheck. You got to have a great credit score. That don't mean nothing. You can get that immediately. I can go get you a good credit score tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But think about it. They say, I don't want to date based off of potential because he may not turn out the way that I think that he should turn out. Okay, cool. So let's take that at face value. Let's say, for example, the man then says that I don't want to date you based off of potential. Well, Anton, that doesn't make sense because you say that the things that men look for and that woman's apex as far as the sexual marketplace value is in her early 20s. That's not what I said. That's what the sexual marketplace value is. That's why it's called sexual marketplace value. It is not called successfully married marketplace value. So if a man is dating you off of potential because he's actually taking the blinders off from what it is that you presented him with your mouth and your body, and he started looking at the value of who you are as a person, do you fit where it is that he's going long term? Are you prepared to talk to a Terrell Owens? Are you prepared to talk to a high value man? Think about it for a minute. Who you are at 22 is going to be completely different than who you are at 42. So is he evaluating you based off of where he's going to be? Because essentially he's dating you based off of potential. He just don't know it yet because he don't know that the finesse is there. So when even when I hear women say, get them while they're young, I'm still scratching my head a little bit because I'm like, wait a minute. Should we take them when you trying to get us? Or should we be evaluating you a little bit differently? Because if men understood their kingship, then they wouldn't be settling for who it is that you are in the first place. Because the sentiment of who you are is not whether or not you should accept us. It's based off of our own kingship, where it is that we're going. And so it's not just about whether or not you are accepting us or whether or not you should date us or whether or not we should go where we're accepted or we're championed and not tolerated. Don't go where you tolerated, go where you celebrated. No, don't even go where you celebrated. I'm telling people, not just men. I'm telling people, but I'm going to use men because we're talking about Terrell Owens right now. I'm telling men, understand your kingship. Because it's not just where you celebrate it. You may be celebrated amongst the pookies and the little corny chicks or the chicks that's not going to be worth your value when you get to where it is that you're supposed to be as far as your full power, your final form, your kingship, your greatness. The problem with most men is that they don't even understand how great they are, so they allow themselves to even be around people that do not add value into their life. Listen, it's a third level that they not having a conversation about. Y'all only surface level out here in these streets. First level is where you tolerate it. That's where your parents told you to get a woman that looked like you, whether or not she's actually for you, add value into your life, or doing the right thing. See, the parents were still giving you bad advice because maybe some of them didn't know. They were projecting their own insecurities and problems onto you, which is one of the reasons why they told you to get somebody that looked like you. Because they were facing a level of discrimination or racism, or it was taught and put into them, but that's not where it is that you were going to be. So you were dating based off of their advice that was short-sighted and their history that had nothing to do with your future. So they said, get somebody that looked like you. That's the tolerance. And then you evolved. And so now we listening to the Terrell Owens, and he's saying stuff like, well, my experience with white women was different than it was with black women because black women didn't like me. So he evolved past the tolerance and he started talking about who it was that celebrated him at the time, right? That's the second level. And we thought that that's all there was. So when women then advise women or men advise women to get with men when they're in high school or when they're in college and then start to get with them, that don't necessarily mean that she's for you and she's supposed to be with you forever. She may just be a season. But because we're short-sighted and we don't get to live and be 100 years old, we don't get to have to learn lessons. But Uncle Anton is going to teach you today because I am the master of understanding what it means to be successfully married. This is the third level. The second level is to go where you celebrate it. This is what I see a lot of guys say on in a lot of instances. Go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it. No, not necessarily. Only if you want to be mid, only if you want to be average, only if you want to be at this level. I'm going to break it down for the third level, but let me play a little bit more of what Terrell Owens is saying.
Didn't deter me from still dating or pursuing black girls. Right. So my thing now is because I know there's the stigma, the stereotypical of athletes, to go off and make money, this and that, and date the opposite color, opposite race. But for me now, where I am, it's not even about color. It's not even about race. For me, it's about somebody that I have some chemistry with, good energy, and I get a good vibe with. That's where I am. Like I said, we all want somebody that's attractive. Right. You know what I mean? Aesthetics going to play a big part in it. Anybody that says, oh, well, I don't care what the person looks like, that's a lie. That's a lie. We all want somebody that we can roll over and wake up to, that's, you know what I mean, that looks pleasing to the eye. Everybody's experiences have been different. For me, when I grew up, I was in my high school pretty much is 50, I don't know what percentage black, white, but I lived in a black neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I attempted to date black girls. When I was younger, I wasn't as handsome as I am now. I didn't have this beautiful smile as I had.
So here's the third level that a lot of people, 99% of the population, will never, ever be able to capture because they don't know. And they don't understand what kingship really means. The third level is to go based off of or to evaluate somebody based off of where it is that you're going to be, not where it is that you celebrate it, not where it is that you tolerate it. None of those, neither one of those is for you when you're really operating in your purpose. Being great and being successful, whether you're successfully married, whether you're successfully in your professional career, whether you're a business owner, you already understand what the end goal is. You're working backwards, right? Great people are Benjamin Button. Great people operate from a Benjamin Button perspective. They're working backwards. They understand what the end goal is, and they're prepping. Their entire life is based off of what it is that it takes to exceed what that is and then go beyond that. So now if you're evaluating based off of that, then you're looking at it completely different. You're not looking at it based off of her aesthetics. You're looking at it based off of whether or not she's going to be a great mother. You're looking at it whether or not she's going to be unquestionably loyal, submissive, and obedient to what it is that we need to do, because what's in her best interest is to make sure that she's pouring into you. You're looking at it based off of whether or not she's moldable, not whether or not she celebrates you. She gonna tell you she love you right now, and then she not gonna necessarily like you tomorrow, because who you are today is much different than what it is that she's looking to be with tomorrow. You want to know whether or not she got the right sentiment. You want to know whether or not she's gonna stick with it. You want to know whether or not she's willing to endure in order to get to the other side, right? You always work backwards. You look at where it is that you project yourself to be long term, and you do that based off of your lifestyle, and then you reverse engineer it, and you start to give yourself milestones along the way. This is one of the reasons why I tell guys on a regular basis, stop starting off like the speed of an Olympic sprinter. Why are you trying to give her everything now? Why are you trying to show her that big wedding? Why are you trying to give her that big ring? Why are you trying to save your salary? Why are you trying to take her to Ruth Chris? Why are you trying to do all of this other type of stuff for her? You shouldn't be doing that. That's the dumbest thing that you can do. That's the dumbest thing that you can do. You starting off with the speed of an Olympic sprinter because you know not who you are yet. And you cannot maintain this. And because she's not going to be able to stick with you, because holding you down when you down is continuing to help build into what it is that you got going on. She should not be around when you really get your kingship. It's so much more to this. It's so much more to this, but I might hold on to this for the night show. Maybe I'll give y'all a little bit more on Wednesday. We'll figure that out. It's not celebrated, go where you celebrate it. It's not go where you tolerate it. It's to go based off of where it is that you're going to be projected. It's your kingship. It's your greatness. It's having equity in what it is that you've built together. Don't worry about it. We'll get there.